Your host Vaibhav. For today's session of JForex Indicators Explained, I will be explaining to you one interesting indicator. This was developed in last century actually. It is one of the indicator which has been derived from other aspects of life. The developer, Mr. John Eller, was a aerospace engineer and he tried to figure out the ways to cancel out the noise and get a better signal for uses. So this indicator has been derived from that application and we will see how we can take the advantage of this indicator to look for the profitable trading opportunities. So now let us head to the JForex 4 platform, the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. So here you have to type in lag ACS, okay, Laguerre ACS1. So this is the GBP USD chart, and most of the time we use Euro USD as the instrument of choice. So today we won't be any different. I have changed it to hourly time frame. All right, so we have now the most favorite instrument in place, and here we have the indicator also at work. The concept is fairly simple. This is an indicator which is used to determine the phase, the cyclical phase of the underlying instrument, in this case Euro USD. We look to determine if the phase is bearish or bullish, and accordingly we try to take the advantage of the market. So for any trading application, we have to keep in mind two critical values for this indicator. One is on the higher side, the upper bound limit has been defined at 1, and the lower bound limit is actually at 0. So when we see that the bullish momentum is prevalent in the market, and if we are looking for initiation of the new trend, then it is better to allow this indicator to run its course. As long as the trend remains strong, we will have the output of these lag ACS indicator at constantly at 1. But as and when it starts to drop, and when it drops below from 1 to below 0.8, I think that can be utilized as a signaling factor. We can take it as a signal that now the trend might have run its course and it might be the start of new bearish phase. So we can try to look to initiate the new trades in contra trend direction if the prior trend was bullish, and we are now seeing the change, the reversal, and the value is now dipping below 0.8. That is the time to look for shorting opportunities. And on the lower side, the bearishness is determined by this value. If we have this value below 0.2 and it has remained continuously at around 0 or thereof, we have to steer clear of any new trades against the trend. It is better to trade with the trend or simply to sit on the sidelines and not any new trades as long as the trend is quite strong. But whenever the turnaround happens and we see now the output again trying to climb above 0.20 from below that level, that is the time to look to initiate the new trades. On the long side, we can look for buy trading opportunities and go for the new trades against the trend. So the reading of these indicators, the classical interpretation of these indicators is simple. It simply tries to identify the phases of the trend, and if we have its value in decline, then that is considered bearish, and if we have its value on the rise, then that is considered bullish. Sometimes it might happen that it might not really go on to touch 1 on the higher side or 0 on the lower side. It might turn from mid levels also, and so we have to pay attention to what is the general direction of its output, and whatever is the direction of the output, if the output is on the rise, then that is considered bullish. If the output is in decline, that is considered bearish. But for new trend start, it is better to take into the advantage, take into account the possibility of these reversal from extreme levels, so that is going to give us more room for profit as well, and we will have higher probability of ending the trade on a profitable note. So it is better for us as well if we take these extreme values into consideration and then take the trades accordingly. So even if you change these instrument to something other, you will have similar kind of signals being generated by these indicator. It works well for commodities, currencies, indices, stocks. So you can try out various instruments and it will work just fine. So here we have these USD in the bullish phase in yesterday's session. I think it was today only, earlier in the day during the Asian trading hours. We had this decline where the lag ACS value dipped below 0.80, but it didn't remain that way for long. And again, we saw the rise, and now the value is now fixed at 1 on the higher side. But if we go back to last session here, it had dipped towards 0 and then it consolidated there, and after that the reversal happened. So it is better to look for reversal from extreme levels. As I said earlier also, it gives us more room for the instrument to run, and that increases the probability of making money. So that's how this system works. It is fairly simple. It is kind of simple to understand in terms of conceptual in but its calculation is a bit complex, and we will not be going into how it is calculated. Rather, we will focus more on its uses, the application, and how we can customize it to take advantage of the market dynamics. So here we have this input data where we have to define the applied price. It can be close price, open price, high price, low price, median price, typical price. All these 7 options are there. Any of these can be utilized to provide as the input parameter. So as and when you change the applied price, you will have slightly different plotting of these indicators. So please pay attention to these plotting on the lower side of this chart. High. Generally, during the uptrend, when the applied price is high, we will have these extreme values reached earlier, and when we have low price as the applied price, then in bearish trend, we will be looking at these zero levels being reached a lot earlier. So depending on which kind of applied price you are using, there will be slight difference in the plotting of these indicator. Then comes the moving average. While determining the moving average, we have to define the calculation period. If you want the calculation period to be less, then you will have lot more responsiveness in terms of the price fluctuation, and that price fluctuation will be reflected in this final output of the indicator as the MA value, the moving average value is less. But if you want to increase the smoothing, then you can increase the moving average. So here we have now this the lag ACS indicator plotted using 20 as the moving average, and as a result of that we have there's a lot more smoothing, and its values are not fluctuating that much. The extremes are reached, but quite rarely. So it becomes interesting how we get different output values depending on what kind of input parameters we are providing. So when you want higher responsiveness, you have to use lower MA value, moving average value, and when you want more reliability, you have to use higher MA value. The gamma factor can also be changed. It is default setting at 0.6, but if you want to increase or decrease, you will have slightly different, or kind of not slightly, but quite a lot different depending on what is the gamma factor we will have. There is an indicator generating signals. Now as the gamma factor has been reduced, we have these fast turnaround time for this lag ACS indicator, and we are seeing that it is generating far more signals than what it was when we had a higher gamma factor. So we have to define these parameters depending on what kind of response we want. So when I change this to 1, we are seeing the flatlining of these output at 0. So gamma factor can't really be made 1. Let us try out 0.9, and when we have 0.9 as the gamma factor, it has become lot less responsive to the recent price fluctuations, and it is likely to provide more reliable signals, but there will be a lag and we won't be able to get into the new trend unless we have significant price reversal. So that is one thing which is likely to make us lose out on initial price moves. So we have to define these parameters while keeping these trade-offs between lag and responsiveness in mind. So now I am again restoring it back to 0.6. The lookback has been defined at 1000. If you want to reduce it to make indicator more responsive, you can do that as well. Now last 100 hours of data is being considered while defining these cyclical phase indicator, the lag ACS. So we have these values, and the responsiveness is, I think, quite good when we have reduced these indicators output. But when we have this trend continuing in the same direction, but some correction in the trend is also likely to generate these signals. That's why look back period was quite high earlier, but responsiveness, as I said, was less. So let's try out the combination of 500 and see what kind of changes we get to see. Now 500 hours worth of data is being considered while defining these indicators output. All right, let's restore back the default setting. Now we have trend up and trend down. This can be styled a little bit. You can go for different combinations. You can even go for the bar chart kind of system where you will have zero output when the output is at lowest, and here it will be capped at 1 on the higher side. So you can define this in terms of bar chart as well. If you want to keep the line, then all you have to do is change the style. Width we can't really change. Transparency can be reduced or increased. Levels, we don't really have anything defined for the levels. Coming to the advanced editing options, if you want the recalculation for the new candle to be done only once, then you can opt in for these options. Then for the given period of time, these output will remain fixed, and only when new candle is plotted we will have the newer output for this indicator, which will again then remain fixed for the given period of time. All right, highlight the time period zone. If you want the calculation period to be highlighted, you can opt in for this. If you want to customize its calculation further, instrument can be used from the chart. Whenever you will change the instrument, the plotting will be done for that particular instrument. The candle period can be same as the chart. So whenever we have the hourly chart open, then the indicators plotting will be done accordingly for the hourly candle period. But if you change the chart's candle time frame, then the plotting of the indicators calculation will also change. But here we get additional options. Suppose if you want the candle period of the calculation for the indicator to remain constant, regardless of what is the charts candle time frame, you can do that as well. Here we have these candle period defined at hourly for the USD JPY chart. But if we consider the lag ACS output, now it is being defined for the 5 minutes So the calculation period is different from the chart's candle period. We can have different interpretations of the market dynamics. Side, the spread side can be ask or bid, so we get these two options. If you want the indicator to be available for all the candle periods whenever you change the chart, you have to opt in for this. Else you have to define individually on which time frame you want the indicator to be available, and only on those time frames the indicator will be available, and on other time frames the plotting of the indicator won't be there. Now this is the USD JPY 10 minutes chart being loaded. It's taking bit time, little bit of time. Let's try out different combination, 15 minutes. Okay. Alright, now I have restored it back to hourly. So I think we are done with these editing options also. Base period can be one of the 5 options, none, 4 hours, day, weekly or monthly. So we have to define these parameters, and depending on that we will be getting these outputs defined for us, and using that output value we can take the informed trading decisions whether to go for the long trade, whether to go for a short trade, or simply taking no trade or sitting on the sidelines. So all these options are always there with you. So guys, that's it from my side for today's session. If any of you have any query or any idea to share, you can write back to me in the feedback section, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. For further coverage of the market developments, do check out the Dukascopy Analytics page. We are also available on the Facebook. You can reach out to us there too. For trying out this newly released trading platform, I have included the link in the bio, so give it a look. Thank you all for joining in. I will be back tomorrow with a new indicator, new explanations, new uses. Everything will be new, so do come back. Thank you all. Goodbye.